Welcome to Calm Your Grits podcast. I'm your host, Joei Allen. I'm just your average stay-at-home mom, homeschool mom, and wifey who loves all things sparkly and anything DIY. From party planning to interior design, basically just a crazy Pinterest mom. Oh, and I've also recently jumped into the pageant life. I'm a self-proclaimed expert at nothing other than hanging on by a thread. I am living my best life during what I could only describe as my midlife crisis. This podcast is about nothing and everything. So whether you're here because you could relate or for some comic relief, my hope is that you'll walk away learning something new, or at least feel a little less weird about the voices in your head and the decisions you've made in your life. I have a feeling this is going to be one of the harder ones for me to share. One of the biggest reasons why women don't share or why they don't speak up in the moment is because there's a lot of shame and judgment. And we need to get rid of all of that. Like, no, we're not we're not going to let moms continue to feel shame about how they're feeling. Period. So after having Lydia, my fourth pregnancy, and I finally had my beautiful, perfect rainbow baby with me at home. I've mentioned it before, like how much of a doozy it was those first few nights where we had no idea what to do or like how to put her to sleep because like there's so much information out there and there's so many well-intentioned friends that will give you their version of what worked for their kid. And sometimes it's hard to just find what works for you and get into a rhythm. We all were put to sleep on our backs, and then it was side, and now it's up, and now it's okay to swaddle. And you do crib bumpers. There's so many different things out there. So, no two babies are alike. I could tell you that. I have two, and polar opposites. I thought by the time I had my second one, I got this. I got this. And no, they were completely different babies. Anyway, some of the things that I went through during postpartum depression. We've already established that postpartum depression is not just depression where you're like sad and in a hole and all of that. So, with that being said, I considered myself a mental health veteran, right? I had already gone through therapy and working with psychiatrists, and I was not opposed to mental health treatment. But even for me, it was hard to understand and accept the fact that what I was dealing with was postpartum depression. Like, who knew? So, some of the things for me were I couldn't leave the house. I remember, and keep in mind, some of these are going to sound like completely crazy. I know we don't say crazy, but some of these are going to sound a little like, what? But so many little things together were making me just feel like something was off. So, leaving the house, that was hard for me on so many different levels. One is when you have a newborn, they usually, the doctors or whatever book you're reading, tell you to have them on a rotation, not necessarily a schedule by like what time, but it's eat, play, sleep. Eat, play, sleep. That's what it is. Okay. And for a newborn, eating can take, if you're breastfeeding, I mean, it could take like 30 minutes a boob. So it's like, let's say an hour process for them to eat. And then you have to keep them awake. Depending on their age, being awake may only be 10 minutes at first. Then it'll be 30. Then it'll be 40. You'll get to a point where it'll be like an hour. And then it's sleep. So just trying to manage that and figure out when am I going to be able to fit that pattern into going out, right? Let's say I feed her, then I change her diaper, and then I put her in the car, keep her awake in the car, and then she falls asleep. But if I haven't gotten to the place I'm trying to go to, like, what if she wakes up when I get her out of the car seat? There's just so many things that would just like drive me nuts. But anyway, that was just me. Also, leaving the house, nothing fit me. I gained 100 pounds during my pregnancy with Lydia because I was pumped with hormones. I was on bed rest, so I couldn't work out. I was large. I was large. So none of my clothes fit me. And the few things that I did have that fit me were usually always being washed. So coordinating my outfit to not look completely crazy, figuring out when I would drive and go and here and there around her feeding schedule. That was challenging. So I know it may sound cuckoo right now, but let's say I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to pump. That way I can bring her milk. And it's not like I have to go and hide in the car or something like that to feed her. Okay, let's do that. But even that took a lot of planning. Going out also involved packing a diaper bag. Do you know how hard it is for someone with, and I didn't know this back then, but I had OCD, postpartum OCD. So a diaper bag was not just like, okay, 2 outfits, 3 diapers, wipes. It was like a suitcase, luggage. So by the time I played out all the scenarios of things that could happen while we were out and packed outfits accordingly, yeah, I mean, that would be another thing. And then I was always exhausted, so I didn't really actually feel like going out. I was exhausted. I didn't feel like doing anything. Then there were things like, okay, let's go out. What if I crash? What if my tire goes flat? What if I run out of gas? What if, like, all these what ifs, like just stuff that like would go through my mind. And some of them I could say out loud, but most of them, I mean, like I wasn't dumb. I knew that the thoughts that caused me anxiety sounded a little off, but it's not like I could just say them out loud. So also, Lydia hated the car. Lydia hated her car seat. I didn't know that even though I was buying one of the best car seats, was not comfortable. So she would scream anytime I'd put her in the car seat. Yeah. Any kind of meeting a friend for lunch or anything was just not happening. And then I'd feel guilty about not taking her out. There was so much guilt for not being absolutely happy that I finally had her. So, like, after all of that, after everything I went through, and I finally had her, I felt something was off and I didn't want to do all the things. And I was obsessed with her, but like everything else just, yeah, I didn't really care much about. So, like, there was all this guilt about not being 100% the mom that I thought I was going to be. So, guilt about if my husband wanted to go out and I just did not want to deal with everything that it took to go out. So much guilt. Guilt if a friend had a baby shower or something like that and I just couldn't make it. Guilt or someone wanted to hang out. The guilt factor is real. And that was another thing that I was struggling with. Another major factor was that every day my maternity leave was getting closer and closer to come to an end. And I was so obsessed with her. I couldn't leave her with anybody. So the idea that I was going to go back to work and leave her with someone would make me break out in hives, panic attacks. I mean, some of the worst panic attacks I've ever had. It was bad, but me staying home was just not realistic. We had just bought this house based on 2 incomes, and I didn't want to lose the job that I worked so hard to get. So it was just this like, oh my God, we're getting closer and closer. And so every day got worse, worse and worse. So luckily, my friends, my church squad, I always I love calling them that, but my church squad, none of them had kids at this point, but they definitely knew something was off. And they reached out to Laura, a friend from church that had dealt with postpartum depression, and they reached out to her for some guidance. She jumped in. She helped my friends find a resource, helped them find Judy, and made the appointment. Then basically came over and they were like, look, we just need you to go just to see if everything's okay. They handled the baby. I'm pretty sure they drove me there, all the things. So I was like, okay, these were all people I trusted. So I listened, I complied. I remember walking in to Judy's office. It was a very soothing atmosphere. She was very nice. I never felt any judgment. I felt like she understood what I was going through because there were, unfortunately, some points where I had tried to be like, there's something wrong with me. And people would just be like, nah, you're fine. You're fine. So having her treat me as nicely as she did was huge. She basically came out. I was in the waiting room. She gave me this form to fill out. It's a bunch of questions. And it was like, did you have a high risk pregnancy? Check. Are you previously divorced? Check. Have you had a loss in your past? Check. Are you here alone? Meaning, my family, my mom and the people closest to me aren't there. Check. Did you get hormones during the pregnancy? Check, check, check. Like, and I'm an overachiever and I love acing some tests, but this was not one I had any urge to actually get almost like a 10 out of 10. But once she presented it to me that way, and I realized that I had so many factors that put me more at risk of getting postpartum depression, that was like my big aha moment. I was like, okay, all right. And again, I had dealt with mental health treatments before. So it wasn't like I was opposed to it. My only issue with this was that up until this point, I didn't understand what it was. Once I did, then we discussed treatments and I jumped right in. There was a lot of trying medications and giving them 4 to 6 weeks to see if they're working. And then if they were sort of working, then we'd up the dose. If they weren't working, um, then I'd stop them and start another one. And again, like restart the process. Recovery took a while for me. I want to say that by the time Lydia was a year old, I was starting to feel better and starting to feel like, okay, I might not die from this. Another part that I need to talk about and mention is my husband. Now he is your postpartum depression guru. He knows all the things. He's that guy that can talk to dads and help them understand. But it was a lot for him to get there. The first time that I was going through postpartum depression, didn't get it. He didn't understand, and bless his heart, anything that came out of his mouth was just the opposite of what I needed to hear. I always joke that the dads don't stand a chance because usually we take out our frustrations or our anger on the people that are closest to us. So even if they do in their minds say something to try to help us, it's wrong. So poor guys, poor guys. I do plan on having an episode and bringing my husband on here and getting some other dads to just get their perspective and have them share their wisdom on what to do, how to handle it, what they think we need to hear during times like this. And my husband got it. Eventually he got it. By the time I had Dylan, I figured out I had postpartum depression like around almost 3 months. And I think by 6 months, I was fine. So, I mean, compared to a year, Like it was just different. Once he got it, there were so many things that he did that helped. And Judy is one of those people that can explain stuff in such a way that you don't get defensive. And she's just facts. She was like, she needs to sleep, and he'd be like, well, I have to sleep too because I have to go to work the next day. And she was like, well, would you like a wife to help you raise this child? Maybe not quite like that. So he's kind of a night owl. He can function on little sleep. So I remember one of the things that really helped me get some relief of all the anxiety and all that was when I was finally able to get a couple hours of sleep in a row. So I would pump. I would do the last feeding, 7, 8-ish. I would leave a bottle for Lydia and I'd go to bed. So Lucas would stay up with her for however long, then he'd put her to bed. And whenever she woke up, he would feed her, stay up, and then put her to bed again. So that would give me several hours to sleep. Sometimes, if I was like really lucky, I could sleep from like 8 to like 2. And that was life changing. Like, my goodness. So, with Dylan, we jumped right into that. He would try as much as he could to make sure that I slept. He knew how hard it was for me to clean the house, so he would do it. He would help with the laundry. There were things that he learned and he picked up on, and I would say he man, like he came a long way. But it wasn't like when he was saying the wrong stuff that he was doing it maliciously. He was doing it out of ignorance. I know that maybe that's a harsh word, but it's hard for guys to get it without someone telling you. It's hard for us to understand it. Imagine the guys. There's no support for them other than maybe if you're lucky, another guy that went through it. But yeah, I do feel like we owe the guys an episode. A couple other things that I think are worth mentioning, especially in the beginning. It felt like that 3-step cycle was going to be forever. And it's not. It's not. They call it the 4th trimester. If you're in that right now, just know that's not what life is going to be like forever. Have some grace and just remind yourself this isn't going to last forever. Sleep will last longer. They'll be able to go longer with a diaper. They'll be able to eat more and eat faster. So little by little, as time goes by, you do start to get some relief from it. Also, I want to talk about grief and like grieving your past life or grieving the life that you thought you were going to have, or maybe even grieving the person that you were. It's not realistic to think that you're going to continue to be the same person that you were before being a mom, because now you're a mom and now you're responsible for a baby, and life being different is okay. And again, if you're dealing with postpartum depression, nothing I say right now is probably going to be of much help. These are all things that I wish someone would have said to me, or I wish I would have been able to read in a book, because all the books were during pregnancy. And then if you were lucky, you would find books on like sleep training and stuff like that. And yeah, so it doesn't last forever. Take lots of pictures, take videos, because one day you're going to look back here and be like, oh my God, so cute. Look how cute she was. What else? Boundaries. Woo, boundaries. It is okay to disappear for 6 months. You don't owe anyone anything. If it's going to mess with your mental health and your well-being, then say no to that year's group Thanksgiving. Take care of you and your family. There will always be someone that is disappointed, but you know what? If the people around you and the circle around you can't come to terms or can't accept the fact that you're saying no, they might be the problem. Again, boundaries. Do not do anything you do not want to do just to make someone happy. Make yourself happy, make your child happy, make your husband happy. But even the husband, you might have to tell him no, especially if he's like more of the social one and you're more of the, I think I want to stay home right now. Like, it is okay to take the first year and just do whatever you can to protect your health, your mental health. Okay. Also, please do not compare. Do not compare your baby to your friend's baby. All kids are different. Lydia, I say lucky because with everything else that I dealt with, had I also had to deal with her being like a slow developer or something like that, that probably would have thrown me over the edge. But I can't even compare Lydia and Dylan because Lydia was always like 90th percentile and my little Dylan, he's just more of a baby. It takes him longer. Again, thank God Lydia was my first, and this was part of my OCD where I had apps that I kept track of all her milestones. I was like, okay, this week she should be able to sit up. And the stuff I did to make sure that that child hit her milestones were, yeah. So don't compare. Don't compare. Your kid is unique. Your kid is, don't compare. Okay, last thing, community. Community. Have mom friends. And it really is important to have mom friends. There are just little tips and tricks, and you give each other a lot more grace because you get it, you understand. But you can find mom friends everywhere. And if you can't, reach out to me. I will find you some mom friends. And you know what? If you don't want to leave your house, you don't want mom friends, that's totally fine too. Also, please do not compare yourself to Instagram mom. I did that. I fell down that rabbit hole so bad. So bad. They're just like out with this awesome stroller and their hair is done and they've lost all their baby weight. And the picture is of the baby in the stroller is smiling. No, it's fake. And on that note, be real if you're comfortable with it. Now, I understand if you're going through postpartum depression, then you you take care of you. Don't worry about anything else. But if you've passed that point, share your story or just share bits and pieces of, the messy mom, right? One day I went and Laura's given me permission to share this, but one day, I think it was a Halloween, we were out. I think we were in her neighborhood. We were trick or treating and she's like, come in. And I walked in to her house. She has 3 kids at this point. Her house was a mess. And I don't say that judging. I say it as in like, I felt like I was walking into my house. I was like, I'm not the only person that doesn't keep a perfectly clean, organized house because I eventually became a stay-at-home mom. I felt all this pressure to like always have meals cooked and the house perfectly organized, all the laundry done at the same time and folded and put away. But it was something about her just being so like, come on in and want a glass of wine. I was like, oh, she drinks too. My God. Did I just find my new best friend? She was already my best friend for, no, actually, I'm pretty sure that's the night she officially became my best friend. Before that, she was just like the friend that shared her story with me, that helped me get help. That her and another friend are basically the reason I'm even here to tell this story. But once I was kind of like healing from recovering from postpartum depression and, those mom friends and stuff, I remember I'm being like, oh my God. So by being authentic and just sharing reality with other people, you have no idea how helpful that is for the rest of us. Now, if you're truly a neat freak and you know how to keep a house clean, share your secrets with us. We need to share the good, the bad, the ugly, the relatable, the embarrassing. And, because a lot of people, like, I've gotten it so much of like, oh, but you're a stay-at-home mom. You have it so easy. What? Define easy. Like, anyway. So that's a bit of my personal journey with postpartum depression. I can say that I got through it. I'm here to tell the story. Unfortunately, not every mom can say that. But if had it not been for my friends that stepped in, that were aware of what was happening, again, I probably wouldn't be here. So I'm going to do whatever I can to get more of these stories out. And there we go. I did it. I got through my story. Thanks again for listening. As always, I would love it if you would subscribe and follow me on all the social media thingies. Thanks again for listening to another episode of Calm Your Grits podcast. Until next time, bye.